You're always able to turn on the creativity any moment.
Yeah, and for me, lights are very important to get into the flow. So that's why I have some lights, and they're hooked up to the synthesizer, so they go into different lights depending on if it's a lot of bass or drums or lots of high pitched sounds.
Great, great.
Playing
All
around.
right. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for our latest planar. So here we have myself, Lindsay, head of education, and also Eric tuning in.
Hi.
Yeah. So Eric is our founder and also a passionate music making enthusiast. So this is actually a beautiful blend and merger of, making with music. So we're going to show you a little bit about how to make some instruments using Eric's creative process. Some of you may be aware of the School of Ridiculous Inventions, another channel that we offer. That is, and Eric actually has released a video on music making as well, right?
Yeah. And we're gonna touch upon that a little bit today because that's basically it's actually almost professional gear. I don't know how to describe that, but everything is obviously professional in different like it's different things you use for different if it's going to be used on stage, you just want something that looks interesting and blinks a bit and then makes sound. But for me, that instrument is actually controlling MIDI devices, so I could control any of my synthesizers with a ridiculous cardboard thing with a straw in it, and that makes me smile, and then the audience or whoever sees that also kind of smiles, and then you don't have to play as good, so it's a filter.
Yeah, it's not actually this global competition is not so much about making perfect music, like making a full-on score, but it's about the idea of making and playing with music and making an instrument or some sort of application. So being creative with sound, just like with code and also with cardboard, paper, and drawing. So it's kind of like the same type of media. It's a fun media to experiment with.
Yeah, and just starting with it will open up a lot of avenues that it will just want to go into, and that's the thing. All Strawbees is wanting to do is spark that curiosity, so they want to dive in and put in the hours to make something. And from my point of view, that means you need to get to that moment of wow, I want to do this. How do I do that? And that's the question. And once they ask that, you don't have to do much as a teacher. They will find it online, or they will find something. As a teacher, you can guide their process of searching for this, for example. Or we as a company, we can give them some idea seeds or structures of how to solve the problem. So that's my goal with all of this. And this instrument is more about having fun. And then actually almost you could look at this as also parrying for your ability of maybe you are not that good at playing a piano. Like me, I'm only one-handed now. So I want to have some more fingers and coordinated stuff. I can actually program things, but still make me be able to flow through the music. So I have a couple of chords that I control with this gesture of my hand, for example. So, and everybody who starts with it, for example, microbit will be able to do similar things. Yep. So yeah, it's it's very entertaining, and it also makes sound. And for example, it's another thing I like is making sense together. How do we make it into a tribe or a group of people being able to jam together, even if you're not really that good in the beginning, because that joy will actually make you want to learn more things, maybe actually pick up a really advanced real instrument also. But I mean, for us now, go nuts with interesting, funny ways of interacting with whatever sounds you make your own sounds, and play around. Um, and that way you will do advanced research and some really cool, yeah, I think things will pop out of that. Or I have a very strong belief, because that's the thing. Student-driven innovation is way stronger than me telling them make this kind of instrument. But then you still need to guide them in the beginning. So.
Well, I'm very excited to explore your creative process in the second half of this session.
Yep.
All right. Well, allow me to just do a brief introduction to how to get started with the Global Challenge, and maybe even introduce where can I find this information. So here I have on our website here, strawbees.com/global-challenge. So on this website, you'll find a wealth of information about how to enter this year's theme, which is creative musical instrument inventions. So we're looking for creativity, sustainability, basic coding skills, and more importantly, teamwork. And basically how to enter is to register and send in a video that is about 1 minute, maybe even going up to 1 minute and 30 seconds, showing your projects. So we invite all teachers, students in school, whether you are working remotely from home or if you're in schools in session, you can also be in an after school program. You could be a summer camp, maybe a spring break summer camp or spring break camp, independent homeschool learning, STEAM makerspace education labs, as well as parents and young makers at home. So basically, we encourage everyone to register. So our competition now we've extended. So it used to be in June that the entries were due, but now we have graciously extended it where now you can go up until August 14th. And so the judging will start in September. And as you can see, there's like an informative video, very similar to how we're presenting here, about our lovely founder, Eric, who's also featured here, talking a little bit more about the competition. So on this website, you'll find that there's like 3 groups that can apply. So we've actually broken down the application groups by age range. So the first group is for teachers and students, ages 6 to 8. So thinking of like the young or elementary, early childhood age range. So we encourage students to work in teams. However, if let's say you're a class of 20 students, so you can have more than one team enter from the same class, but you can have no more than 4 students per team. So you can have like 5 groups of 4 students participate. Then our second group, also in the classroom with teachers and students, is for ages 9 to 14. And then our third group is for parents and home learners, so homeschool learning at home. And that age range is basically 6 to 14. So it expands between quite a few age ranges. So if you are in the parent and home learners, we can only take one project per family to make it fair. So you cannot send one project per sibling. It has to be one per family to submit. So let's talk about the prizes. So, one of the top prizes that you can get is, fabulous STEAM school kits from Strawbees, but we also have our fellow partners, Soundtrap by Spotify, Mozilla Music School, a great app, and also Jamstick. So there's actually more potential to enhance musical learning in the classroom. So I won't go too in depth in the different prize groups per age range, but I highly recommend that you take some time to explore the website, strawbees.com/global-challenge, and you can look in depth into what types of prizes you can create. And then you can reveal the full prize. So you'll also notice that we have like a few categories. So we have like a few categories where you can do the judging criteria for best overall, but also for creativity, thinking about sustainability. So using recycled materials, if you want to really aim for that category, as well as demonstrating teamwork. So thinking about musical instruments where maybe it requires more than one person to participate in the musical session, in the musical jam session, as well as the process. So we actually also reward process just as much as the product itself. So maybe even showing your process like in documentation in the video or explaining very briefly what you have created. So, there's actually multiple categories that you can win. So the chances to win is fairly high. So, if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see a little bit more about our musical partners and our rock and roll prizes through them. And then we also have a few pieces of information down below. So we actually have a musical app that you can use to get started, especially if you're using the Code and Robotics Strawbees kit as a base for with QuirkBot. This could be an excellent app that you can use to play music from. So you can test, you can upload a program to your QuirkBot and use it kind of like a key press. So you can play music pressing A, S, D, and even change the musical instrument just to have a very basic app to get started. And then I also want to just point out like the jury. So we have a fabulous jury of 5 individuals. Myself and Eric are 2. And the rest of our jurors, we expand across 3 continents. So you have a very international, diverse group of individuals judging from multiple points of the world. So then the very last thing I want to show is how to register. So let's say you create your instrument. So you want to submit your project. So the very first thing you need to do is to register. So when you register, you just click on the Register Now button. And then it'll take you to a fill out form. And it just goes through the basics of what you saw on the website, including how to apply, who can apply, and the ground rules. So another important thing to mention with one of the main rules is we love having children in the video, but we cannot afford to have faces. So, just like what we love our learning, we love using hands. So hands is the best way to show the application of the instrument. If you do have a video with a little bit of faces, we recommend maybe putting like a mask or some sort of emoji in the video to cover the face of the students, because we want to make sure that we're focusing more on the musical instrument. And then also we, for the judging criteria, another part is that after the judges complete the criteria, you'll find that we will also have an award ceremony. So, in September, we'll have a mass award ceremony with all the participants, including the official judging and award ceremony of what musical instruments won the different categories. So, after registering, you would also need to submit projects. So the most important thing to know is that there are actually 2 forms. The registration form, which is to collect some basic information about your name, particularly, especially an adult's name. So if you're a teacher representing a group, we definitely need your email and your name. And then when you submit the project, so if I click on Submit Project here, you'll also need to make sure that the email you register with is the same in the project submission. And then this is how you can actually submit the video through this platform. So again, we recommend a video that's about 1 minute and, at most can be 20 megabytes long. But of course, the most important thing to remember is that we want to show hands-on learning in the literal sense. So this is some basic information I wanted to point out on our website. So again, go to strawbees.com/global-challenge for more information, and also more information on the prizes and how to register. So now I want to, really focus on some musical making. So, Eric Toshinson, I know that you have quite a bit of experience making instruments, maybe not necessarily making musical scores so much. I know you have quite a bit of synthesizers behind you, but could you give us some inspiration about projects you have made in the past, or even what you have in your home?
You mean from Strawbees, or in like making instruments? We've been making a lot of it's a very joyful process. We have actually had workshops in making controllers for smartphone apps. So that's one thing you can actually do. The QuirkBot can control the MIDI in a smartphone if you have a smartphone adapter, for example. So that's a big thing we were doing, just putting knobs and twists, like all kinds of stuff. You can use real gear and then control really massive and powerful synthesizers just by using a camera adapter. I'm not going to show that right now, but that was actually something we did a lot. And now there's probably a lot of free synthesizer software apps. Mm-hmm. I have too many of my, all the brand, I like old Korgs. So you can see it, there's a weird, you see that synthesizer way in the back, there's a little thing. It's a 1975 synthesizers. They made really good emulations of that. So that's something I made. And then what's fun is not knowing how to control it, introducing randomness and actually going for just twisting some of the knobs. So that's how we start. As you can see, all old synthesizers, they have knob twists, like twists and sliders. One synthesizer, I don't know if you can see them. I'm going to turn on some blinky lights. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it. And while you do that, Eric, I actually just thought of something. So do we need to use Strawbees? So we actually understand for this challenge, especially given the circumstances of remote learning experiences, that maybe not everybody has access to Strawbees or not everybody has a microbit readily available. So to enter the competition, you can use anything in your household. So, we encourage you, of course, we would love to have Strawbees represented, but if you have that, maybe you have very minimal amount of Strawbees, or you want to use different applications like Scratch to make music in, we do want some sort of physical component. That is actually one of the most important elements to this competition. So, Eric,
But that's more important than like showcasing what we do. But some of our stuff is really good for it. But don't let that put a break on you or your development or your creativity. But so I'm just going to show some tricks later. But that's for me, it's been a lot of that things, and I actually have been very inspired by a couple of things back in the day. Also, one of my favorite things that everybody should make sometime in their life is a genius thing that Jay Silver came up with. It's called the Drawdio. It's one of my favorite interfaces. It's like really, really joyful. I think I have an old one. I hacked one. I made a version of it, and it's in the closet there. I won't go in there because then you won't see me all night, because it's called a chordrobe. So it's not a wardrobe, it's a chordrobe. It's just intense amounts of chords, but for synthesizers and stuff. But anyway, I made one for kids. This is an interface, like how a creative process can start. So I was playing with this Drawdio where you use a graphite pen, like a classic pencil. I don't know how many have seen this, but look it up afterwards. This was very inspirational to me. And then I just made a scaled up version for the doctor's clip, where you put your notes as a doctor. And I gave it to the hospital clowns we have. I don't know if that's a thing in the US, but we have hospital clowns in Sweden. You can opt out, but so I made an instrument for them where they used watercolors, and it made sound when you painted it. So each painting came with an entire song. Wonderful. And so Scratch has been in background of that too. So you can make similar things, but on the computer. So very inspirational. So yeah.
So Eric, do you have like a Scratch example that you've created using microbit? Yeah. Could we see that?
Classic. I don't know how much time we have here, because usually I can't see the clock, and I don't have any in this studio. Time is not a thing. So
about 8 minutes.
Yeah. So I'm going to show an interesting thing. So one of the standard things you can make with Scratch and microbit, where the integration is really, really good, I'm going to show that. And that actually is trying to replicate this instrument. So I don't know how many have seen this instrument in real life. Do you know what it is, Lindsay?
No, I'm not sure, actually.
So I'm having some issues with it because I have some ground error. I think might have been stepping on the cable too much. I'm going to try to fire it up, and then we'll see if somebody recognizes this. And this is something you can make with both our QuirkBots and the microbit. Can you hear it?
Yes.
It's really hard to play it because you kind of have to play it like this, it's called tickling a butterfly.
Interesting.
A lot of people find this one annoying. It's called a Theremin, so it's a really old instrument, and they found it out when they invented the radio, and they accidentally came close to the antennas and made sounds. That's how a lot of innovation happens. It's not intended to happen, but it can be very musical, but you have to practice a long time. So you can see people play very much with your wrist. And that is a really interesting thing. So if you look at the microbit, and the Scratch implementation, there is actually a basic program that is just that. It's actually trying to emulate the Theremin. So let's see, can I share my screen?
Yeah.
There we have it. Doink. So here we have, you see this?
Yes.
So this is a standard, it's actually a bat that's trying to be a Theremin. I think you can see bat Theremin.
Yes, we do.
And this is downloadable from, it's actually featured on the microbit thing. So I wanted to show how to tweak, for example, a featured project and how to enhance it. But basically actually show that this is a very powerful device for making something very different. So I don't know how much you know about Scratch Link, but it's a very interesting thing where if you put a Scratch hex code on the microbit, you can follow instructions. It's actually on the web. It's called Scratch Link. Then it's directly connected to Scratch, and you can read the tilt and things. So I was actually hoping to be able to make this wrist interface so I could actually play this bat Theremin exactly like I play the real Theremin with my wrist. The Theremin also has a volume thing, but I was not going to use that there. So let's start this little program up. So this is going to do the very similar thing to what we just showed by actually taking the tilt angle of this. And this actually shows that you can, for example, make this onto your hand with the Strawbees structure or just using rubber bands or whatever you have. But the good thing is actually having the power in this. So let's fire up the code. Do you hear it?
It's a very interesting sound.
So playing music is asking me. is Zoom commenting on my skills? So let's pause it for a while. So this is a very immediate, but almost no code to be done here. So one first tweak would be to change the background to actually make it audio-visual thing, to change just the color, to make a setting, for example, on your screen, and combine the interface so you feel the music in a way or see the music. A second thing would be to introduce volume on the other angle. But what I really like is showing the power of Scratch in terms of making sounds and sampling sounds. So we'll see if this works now or not, if I actually can record, or if that might be a problem. We need your permission. Oh, it might work. So are you ready? Do you see this? You follow?
Yes, we're ready.
So what kind of sound do you want me to make my new Theremin with?
Something a little squeaky.
Is that a good sound? So now you use this very fast and easy sampler inside Scratch. Wonderful audio. Like a professional recording artist. So whap, I'll call it whap. And you can play it. And then now we have a very descriptive sound or a name of this, which is very important when you do code, because in the end you'll lose yourself completely in this sound. So now we're doing very simple, small changes to the code, obviously. And we're just using an air interface. It's just a smart way of controlling it, holding it somehow. Now I'm actually using a steering wheel from a submarine, but that's another story completely. Is what I had at hand right now. I'm going to show some other interfaces. Let's start it up and see what happens when we use mwep instead. So as you can see, this contains some weird audio data. It's still very joyful. But obviously this is more of an annoying instrument, exactly like the original Theremin, if you haven't practiced quite a lot or controlled it somehow. So that's the thing. But this same data could, for example, be used to, instead of controlling an immediate signal, actually play chords according to scale you choose. So you can flow through chords and using different levels of the chords. We won't have time to show that right now, because then I have to put in a lot of blocks. But that's maybe something we could post in later comments or in posts somehow.
Absolutely.
but that's typically, you understand that you can use this immediate, you can do samples yourself, you can change the sample very easily, which is why Scratch is very, very powerful and it's really fun to play with, especially in the beginning. And then you can go like realize I want to control this big synthesizer behind me on the exact same way. And then there will be ways to do that with any system you have. But another interface you might recognize, which is the old keyboards, the stuff you can make with aluminum foil. This is a very simple interface that you might recognize from the previous video, but this is the exact same thing. So you can actually just take standard code in the beginning to remix. So I would like really try to, oh, you see me, let's stop sharing here temporarily. So I'm showing another interface here. And the code I showed there is obviously just a starting point. When you start remixing it, it becomes interesting and much more fun, and a way of maybe making it on a beat, playing a note or a chord on a beat instead. And then everybody has the same BPM, and then you can actually have an orchestra of people where it actually works out in an interesting way, because a lot of times you will have too much lag when you play synthesizers and stuff. So if they're on the beat and in kind of sync, it's going to be amazing. This one, I'll just show another simple interface on how to utilize for example, microbit in this case, just because I'm showing that. And then I'll go on to possibly showing some stranger interfaces in a minute. But this also can utilize the standard microbit program for Scratch, because Scratch is in that way very, very powerful. So I'm going to share the screen again and show you how I do this. So this is a typical way of starting your creative process, looking at what other people have done, looking at some standard things, and then going bananas, tweaking them. I really emphasize that the last part is the most important. To just go through and see other code is not as interesting as starting to control it and changing it and owning it, which is also, once again, the entire idea of Strawbees. So I'm going to share my screen again and go back and use another standard code for from the microbit page. So they have a microbit guitar. This obviously does not look like a guitar, does it?
Not quite.
That's kind of fun to mash up things. This is a shitty keyboard, but you can make lots of interesting interfaces the same way, where you need one ground. So I'm gonna just do classic thing. I'm gonna load from my computer. I'm gonna load the microbit guitar. So you can see I've been doing a lot of submarine things here. There we are. So it's coming in a School of Ridiculous Inventions episode anytime now. So replace current content. Let's see if this pops up. This also has a little bit of interface, but it's nice to see the standard stuff and then start changing it. This once again uses the exact same code inside your microbit. You're just controlling another app with it. So let's connect. You see that when pin 0 is connected, it's going to play one thing. So let's just figure out what's going to be pin 0. I'm just going to connect things here. I'll show that afterwards. So now I'm connecting banana clips, a classic thing in weird instrument workshops. Really good to have a lot of them, isn't it, Lindsay? Like,
Always.
you could make an instrument that you control with water. You can make an instrument that actually measures the amount of current you let it through, the voltage, and all that stuff. So let's see if this works now. I've connected it, and I'll go back to my stop sharing. You can see this code now that's going to play an F, an A, and a C too. And then I can actually change the pitch effect with the A and B button. So very, very basic. You will go beyond this in 3 seconds if you're on your own there. Okay, so you see me now?
Yep.
So let's see if this works. Underwhelming a bit, but let's see if I can hold this. Sorry for being weird. I should have made a helmet for now, but I'm gonna use it like this. Ground, and then so this would be interesting to just improve it for strumming, to make a natural movement, to actually rotate the guitar. And that's more the like exercise of the kind of the feel of an instrument, which is an interface field, so you can actually.
Whoops. Sorry, Eric. I think your audio started to fizzle out a little bit. So I'll invite you back. But if your audio doesn't work, we might actually have to start to wrap up the session.
Okay. But anyway, this shows I love.
Okay, sorry, Eric. I think something happened with your microphone. Well, that's no problem because we're actually out of time now. But thank you, Eric, for showing your 2 iterations with the Theremin and your instrument, the guitar instrument, and also previewing the oboe from the School of Ridiculous Inventions. So thank you very much for that. So let us wrap up. So now you now have the tools to get started. So start building your Strawbees musical instruments with your students or with your children at home, and submit your projects by August 14th. So you have quite a few months until then, and then the judging will start in September. So again, we still have plenty of opportunity, plenty of entries that are waiting to be reviewed by our lovely panelists. So again, thank you very much, and we look very forward to seeing what you create. All right, take care, everyone.